Oh, hey, well, I'm back, and it's definitely been a while since I've been here. I think I found, at least in these early stages of content creation, that I'm doing way more consuming than creating. And personally, I don't think that's a bad thing at all, but I also think it's a good idea to get back into talking about games. So first, I want to get into what I've currently got going on by highlighting my previous top 10 most anticipated list. So from that list, I have started, and I'm currently still playing Death Stranding 2 on the beach. I'm on chapter 6, I think, so I've got a ways to go, but there have been so many other distractions that I'm finding it a little bit more and more difficult to just find the right time to hop back in and complete the game. From what I've played so far, I'm very much enjoying it. I'm having a great time making deliveries. Maybe once this is all done, it'll get its own video, like I did with Black Myth Wukong. Next up, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I completed this game around when it released, and can say it's easily one of, if not the best games I've played in 2025. Now, these takes might sound played out since the game has obviously been out for a while, and a lot of these are pretty ubiquitous among others, but the game pretty much nails everything for me in terms of story, writing, gameplay, music, and tone. I adored the active turn-based combat mechanics in the game with the parry and dodge system, making fights and boss battles so much more epic because of adding further engagement to the classic turn-based JRPG formula. The fact that this was made by a relatively small team based in France is no minor feat either. What the team at Sandfall has managed to accomplish is incredible in my opinion. Of course, I will not discuss the ending, but it did leave me with one of the best gut punches I've had in recent memory. It's not a perfect game though, and I did have some issues with it, primarily with the map or lack thereof in certain areas, and the pacing of the game overall, certainly towards the latter half of the game. I played and completed both the Suikoden and Lunar remakes earlier this year when they released, and had a fantastic time playing through them. Having completed these remakes of older JRPGs totally got me in the mood for a while to play pretty much strictly turn-based JRPGs. I picked up the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster on Switch and subsequently beat all 6 games in the collection. And with the Switch 2 on launch day, I picked up a few games, Mario Kart and Cyberpunk, but also most notably, Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, which completely took my attention by storm. Get out of here, Mario Kart, I had some grinding to do. I played a good chunk of Bravely Default when it originally released on 3DS in 2012, so I already had a familiarity with the Brave and Default combat system, choosing whether to unleash a large attack at the start, making you wait several turns in return, or choosing to default up to several times, essentially stacking power for a later attack. I found this system very engaging and was able to complete the game along with its secret ending and secret final boss. I liked it so much that I wound up picking up the 3DS follow-up Bravely Second End Layer and the formal sequel Bravely Default 2 on Switch. With all these other games, we'll see how long it takes to get back into these. Monster Hunter Wilds is a game I've been thoroughly enjoying and definitely sinking my time into this year. And there's so much to say about Wilds, but I'll keep it short. It rocks. I think the new monsters are all great, and with each new update that's come out, I've found a ton of enjoyment experimenting with different builds and taking on new and returning monsters. If I were you, I would absolutely expect this to be in my top 10 games of the year when all is said and done. And a couple that I skipped, so the first being First Berserker Kazan, just had too many other things going on, including Expedition 33. I do still have interest in this game, but I feel like at this point it's going to turn into another Black Myth Wukong, and we'll get into it in 2026 or later. Elden Ring Night Rain also released, and I'm gonna be completely honest here, I'm not the biggest fan of multiplayer games. I like having my own experience with a single-player game, not reliant on others in order to succeed or progress. And when I found out that the single-player mode in Night Rain was not as fun as playing with others in a party, I told myself I'd sit this one out. And while the world design, the combat, the boss designs, and returning bosses from the Dark Souls series are all captivating to me, especially having played over 300 hours in base Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree, the multiplayer component completely takes me out of that grander experience. This has me a little worried about the next game in From Software's development pipeline, The Duskbloods, planned to be a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. This was announced at the April Nintendo Direct and was described later as indeed being another multiplayer title being developed. Regardless, I do think it's quite awesome that we're getting our own exclusive From Software title releasing on Switch 2. And for a few games that are already out, Donkey Kong Bananza released on July 17th on Nintendo Switch 2, and man, I freaking love this game. I'm currently playing it and having a stupid amount of fun crashing and breaking through everything and collecting every single banana I can find. Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers released on July 24th for PC, Xbox, and PS5, and from what I've seen and heard, it sounds right up my alley. A solid Souls-like with interesting navigation and pathways, so I'm all in once I get through these 80 other games. I also realized that there's more than a few games on the previous list that don't have release dates, so for this video I'm going to try and focus on the remaining months of this current year, 2025. Starting with Mafia: The Old Country, releasing on August 8th. The Mafia series has been a blind spot for me, and I've only really recently jumped into the remasters of the original trilogy, starting with Mafia 1, and just have a couple hours played. I'm surprised that these games have totally eluded me over the years because I love gangster and mafia-related crime movies like The Godfather, Goodfellas, Scarface, and The Departed. I love them. So with my interest in this genre, my commitment should already be cemented, right? Well, I think it's just another case of too many games. But with Mafia: The Old Country, it definitely has me intrigued to pick up once I've completed the trilogy. Taking place this time as a prequel to the series set in early 1900s Sicily, which I think is a very interesting setting, and from what I've seen and heard, looks like it could potentially be a great single-player narrative game. There seems to be a pretty big focus on these one-on-one duels with an emphasis on the use of knives, so I'm interested to see if that particular gameplay element evolves over the course of the game. Dragon Drive releases on August 14th on Nintendo Switch 2, and I gotta tell you, I am stoked for this game. And I know, I get it. First look at this game, and it looks incredibly generic and almost lifeless, but what got me excited was how you play it. You see, Dragon Drive is a 3v3 basketball game where your player character sits in a wheelchair or vehicle. You use the Joy-Con 2 as mice, either on a table or on your lap, and you navigate like you would if you were rolling around in a wheelchair. I had the opportunity to play a match or round or whatever it's called during Nintendo Switch 2 hands-on experience in Dallas back in April. I remember having a surprisingly fun time, and with the price of it only being $20 and having seen recently announced modes, I can completely understand what this is. I just have no idea how much staying power it'll have or how quickly it'll lose my interest. I heard of people having hand cramps, but I didn't really experience that at the event. Again, only time will tell. Next up, wow, holy smokes, this sure did come out of nowhere for me. To be honest, it wasn't even on my radar until the July 31st Nintendo Partner Direct, where they announced a demo available now. Shinobi Art of Vengeance is a 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania made by the team behind games like Wonder Boy, which came out early in the Switch 1's lifecycle, and more recently, Streets of Rage 4. Playing this game feels awesome. The game mixes all sorts of ninja antics like your trusty katana, kunai, and ninjutsu arts, one of which I found early on, giving you a fire-breathing attack. It's so sick, plays amazing, and I was so impressed with the demo that I went ahead and pre-ordered the physical edition from Limited Run. Game comes out August 29th, I'm hyped. Number 4 is Hell Is Us, releasing on September 4th, and after playing the demo on Steam, recently I am 100% sold on Hell Is Us, developed by Rogue Factor. The initial trailers of course got me interested, with a very interesting and distinct art style. The game is a third-person action-adventure title leaning pretty heavily into the adventure aspect of things. The game does a great job, at least in the brief demo, of not telling the player what to do. It lets you figure things out without really holding your hand at all. I think what makes it most fun for me, aside from the detective mode aspect of trying to figure things out and trying to figure out what's going on in the world, is actually the size of the player character. The scaling makes you kind of short, almost like a miniature or like a small figurine. I love this choice. I don't see too many people talking about it. I feel like this makes the world and enemies you encounter more imposing. There are some games like No Rest for the Wicked, for example, where your arms are longer than your body, and with that game in particular added to a more floaty feeling game, at least from what I played at the time. Hell Is Us's main character feels great to move around, and that definitely translates to the combat. I think it feels really good when you get into a groove to take out these bizarre, unsettling creatures you encounter in these wastelands, and if I'm being really honest, this is my most anticipated game. I have really high hopes for it, so I hope that past the point in the demo, it really kicks it in a high gear with the narrative and gameplay elements it's playing with. Number 5 is Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion, releasing on September 5th, and look at that, another sequel to a game I haven't played. The first game, Daemon X Machina, released back in 2019, and the thing about this is that I remember playing the demo but actually not enjoying it as much as I thought I would. It's a third-person mech-based action RPG. While that's great on paper, I don't know, it just never really clicked with me. I'm a big fan of Armored Core, so this kind of game definitely speaks to me. From what's been shown in the sequel Titanic Scion, I am very fascinated by the appeal of faster overall gameplay. In the first game, you piloted these giant mechs, making the game feel a little slow. Now they've shrunken you down to a smaller sized robot build to hopefully add to that speed. You take control of what's called an arsenal, equipped with up to 6 weapons of various damage-dealing properties. Different types of weapons will of course come with different effects, so I think I'll have a ton of fun switching out different parts for a variety of different builds. They even showed off recently that you can jump into a bigger mech too, so with new gameplay options and a pretty great looking art style, I think this will be a lot of fun. The Silent Hill series is getting a brand new entry this year with Silent Hill F. And is it F is for friends? Well, I think it's more likely F as in forte, a term and symbol used in music which means loud or strong. Now, from the looks of it, that seems a bit of the opposite of our protagonist, Hinako, who certainly seems to be struggling through some of these terrifying events, and I definitely don't blame her. The setting is what gets my immediate attention as it's based on a real Japanese location in town. It's also a fairly far departure for the series, which has normally taken place in the United States, most often in New England, which for me personally has always been a really cool thing as that's where I grew up. My brother is a fan of Silent Hill as well, so if he jumps into this game, I think we'd have some fun conversations. The visuals are all super haunting, combining an odd beauty wrapped up in the nature of the world with the flowers and all the grotesque monsters that feel like they fit right in. I don't think I've played a horror game like this in quite a while, so I'm very excited to get my hands on the sticks to experience this one. Next up at number 7, Ghost of Yotei releases right at the beginning of October on PS5 and is a follow-up to 2020's Ghost of Tsushima, developed by Sony's Sucker Punch Productions, famous for games such as Infamous and Sly Cooper. I adored Ghost of Tsushima when it came out, following the footsteps of samurai ninja Jin Sakai protecting the Japanese island of Tsushima from a Mongol invasion. The marriage of story and gameplay in the first game was excellent, totally gives the player the feeling of playing through something like a Kurosawa film. Ghost of Yotei, on the other hand, takes place almost 200 years later, with a new protagonist, Atsu, who, after the death of her family, sets out to take out members of the Onryo clan that murdered them. I love this narrative setup and think it will totally propel players into this Ronin role, and with what's being shown gameplay-wise, I think it's going to be even more of what I love from Tsushima. Digimon Story Time Stranger comes out on October 3rd, and aside from Pokemon, I'm also a very big fan of Digimon. I was right there at the beginning with both, watching the original anime, seeing the first movie in theaters with my brother while my dad took a nap, and continuing to watch each season unfold. My particular favorites are seasons 3 and 4, Digimon Tamers and Digimon Frontier, respectively. They totally brought something to the table that Pokemon just wasn't, and I felt like as I grew up, Digimon was also growing up with me to an extent. When it comes to the games though, the Digimon titles like Digimon World and Story never really seemed to grab me. I think these feelings will change though with Digimon Story Time Stranger, as this time for whatever reason, maybe it's the visuals, the gameplay, I don't know, but all the JRPG mechanics mixed in with the monster taming and digivolving fires up something in my brain. It really looks like a lot of fun and a really great choice for some Ryan-encoded comfort gaming. Speaking of comfort gaming, the newest entry in the Pokemon spin-off Legends series arrives on Switch and Switch 2 2 weeks later on October 16th. Pokemon Legends Arceus came out a few years ago and was a big departure from the mainline Pokemon games. It splits the player from a static turn-based menu to a more dynamic field of view, allowing to both battle and capture wild Pokemon and battle trainers anywhere in the world with new navigational freedom. The Pokemon Company is taking things to the next step with Legends Z-A, this time taking place in Lumiose City, a Paris-inspired location from the X and Y games on 3DS. This time you'll be able to move around even more freely with something akin to an active battle system, essentially removing the reins of a more standard fixed battle, allowing your Pokemon to move around the area to line up the best shot to make a move. Thank goodness the Switch 2 is seeming to make the game run smooth, and I'm praying for a really solid experience on new hardware. So between Pokemon and Digimon, October is going to be a good month for me. And at number 10, Ninja Gaiden 4 is the latest entry in Team Ninja's Bloody Action series, this time with help and co-development from Platinum Games, a now legendary studio famous for intense high-energy action games behind titles like Bayonetta and Nier Automata. It's no wonder that this team rules, as it was originally formed by Shinji Mikami, Atsushi Inaba, and Hideki Kamiya, creators of Resident Evil, Okami, Devil May Cry, and many others. Mikami, of course, split off and created Tango Gameworks, known for the Evil Within games and Hi-Fi Rush, and Kamiya recently in 2024 created a new independent studio, Clovers Inc., with their first major project being an official sequel to Okami. Currently, Inaba is the studio head at Platinum Games as the president and CEO. I mentioned in the past that the Ninja Gaiden series is one that I don't have a ton of familiarity with, but this one looks like so much fun, and I thought the description from the game's official website did it best. Quote, experience a return to the intense, high-octane action that established Ninja Gaiden as a premier action game series. This long-awaited fourth installment introduces an all-new protagonist in Yakumo, a young ninja prodigy whose fate is intertwined with the legendary Ryu Hayabusa himself. Prepare for a legacy reborn with exhilarating style and thrilling action for a new generation of players. With adjustable difficulty settings and customizable experience, Ninja Gaiden 4 will push action game veterans to their limits while inviting newcomers to rise to the legendary ranks of Master Ninja. End quote. So if you can tell, I'm wicked excited for all these new Ninja games coming out. Not only is there this and Shinobi to look forward to, but there's actually a new Ninja Gaiden game out right now, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, a 2D pixel art side-scrolling action game. And now for a couple of extras, one that I still have on my radar, but may or may not get to. The first is Lost Soul Aside, coming out on August 29th on PS5, and this is a new character action game, part of Sony's China Hero project, which supports Chinese-led development teams. Games like that of Wuchang Fallen Feathers and Black Myth Wukong are a part of. As you see now, Lost Soul Aside is incredibly visually impressive. Seeing some limited gameplay snippets as well has me pretty enticed to check this out. And then there's Dreams of Another, coming out on October 10th to PS5 and PSVR 2, and yeah, this is a weird one. I'm not quite sure what to think about Dreams of Another yet, but it being developed by Pixel Junk and Q Games turns my head in its direction. They've crafted and shipped a variety of games within the Pixel Junk moniker, like Pixel Junk Monster games and Pixel Junk Shooter games. This obviously looks completely different than those, wherein you control a character shooting and destroying the world in order to create more of it. With pun definitely intended, it looks like this might be a sleeper hit if it all comes together. Oh, and also, I know that Nintendo announced a bunch of third-party games coming to the Switch and Switch 2. I might make a video about those as well, so more to look forward to. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. This has been Ryan's Game Quest. See you next time.